And I'm going to scroll down here and we're going to get the ffmpeg get full, this one here. Okay, so this is a 7-zip file, so you're going to need a program called 7z to open this file. So I'm going to go ahead. I think I have this installed already, so we'll go back here to our downloads folder. And yeah, if you installed the 7-zip program, I'll link that in the description as well. Go ahead and download and install that, and then you should be able to extract the files. And I should have this folder here, and then the only thing that I'm going to need here is in the bin folder is this program here called ffmpeg. So I'm going to actually copy that, and I'm going to go back to the folder here on the desktop where all the stuff is, and go back into this Windows folder, and I'm going to put that in here where that gp.exe folder or gp.exe executable is, because all the files are going to be processed in this folder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my video file in here as well, and I'm going to rename this to 1.mp4, and I'll explain that later. It has to do with the video processing with ffmpeg. Now we need to go grab the Blackbox file from the flight controller. So you want to go ahead and fire up your Betaflight configurator and then plug in your flight controller. You're going to connect to your flight controller and then go to the left here to the bottom, click on Blackbox, and then you can see we have some data recorded on here. And you want to click on Activate Mass Storage Device Mode. This is the one that works reliably. If you use the save flash file, it sometimes fails, so don't use this, or it's pretty unreliable. It really depends on your computer, but this works pretty much all the time. Activate Mass Storage Device Mode. That'll convert that flash data chip on the flight controller into a USB drive. And so down here, we're going to have basically BTFL all. I think that's like basically all the flights, and then the individual flights will be called BTFL like 001, 002, etc. So all your flights will be consecutively labeled here. And we're going to copy this, the 001, or whichever the flight is. So assuming that you only have that one flight, copy that over to the same folder that I put all the other files into. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that window and unplug the flight controller. So what you want to do here is you want to upscale the air unit file from 1440 by 1080 to 2704 by 2028 in ffmpeg. And so that's why I renamed this to 1, because I'm going to use this command here to do the upscaling. So this, you basically in the command line or the command prompt, you're going to put in this the program. -I is input, and then 1.mp4 is the input file, and then this -VF scale 2704 2028 is the resolution you want to upscale it to, and then these are, I think this is like a flag for how to do it. I got this from the ffmpeg website where I downloaded it from, so if you want all the details on all the different flags and parameters and things you can use with this program, it's going to be documented over there. -R is to change the frame rate, because the frame rate is 60 frames per second natively, and you want to convert it to 30 frames per second, because in the GUI program that does the gyro data injection, for some of these profiles, the frame rate is very important. So certain profiles don't work with 60 frames per second. So if you're in a certain resolution, or sometimes it'll work, but then once you get to ReelSteadyGO, you'll get an error saying that certain shooting mode isn't supported or something like that. You know, basically, it's like a black screen with like a red error on ReelSteadyGo's window, and basically that means that it's not in the correct format. And that's going to happen a lot. So if you see that, that usually means either the resolution is incorrect or the frame rate is incorrect. Something is, ReelSteadyGo is very picky about how the file should be formatted, because it should be formatted exactly the way it expects. And it's going to be, like a Hero Session 5 or a Hero 4 black, or sorry, Hero 6 black, Hero 7 black, something like that. It's a very specific file format. So if like certain things aren't exactly the way it expects, it will just fail and it won't work at all. So in this case here, I'm putting in the -R 30 to convert the frame rate from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second, and then the 2.mp4 is the output file, or the name of the output file. So in order to run this, you go right back to the window here that I had all the programs saved to. And if you go into the little address bar and you type in cmd and hit enter, it'll bring up a command window already in that directory. And then we can just copy the command here that I just was talking about, and we'll paste that in here. And then it'll start doing the upscaling and the frame rate transformation, and it'll dump that file out as 2.mp4. Okay, so that process may have taken a while depending on how fast your computer is, but you should have a file now that is called 2.mp4 in that same folder. That should be the proper format. Now, I don't know exactly why ffmpeg works and other programs don't, so I know that a lot of you guys have tried using something like Adobe Premiere Pro to upscale the video. For some reason, Premiere Pro does not put in the proper headers into the MP4 file so that ReelSteadyGO can use it. Yeah, sometimes if you use some other programs, it may work. I've heard most of the times it doesn't work, but I'm fairly certain that ffmpeg will work for most situations and most video files, and it should put in the proper information into the video file. Now you notice that I changed the frame rate from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second, but the GoPro, for the proper GoPro frame rate is 29.97, and that's actually going to get changed by the gp.exe program here, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But before we can get to that last step, we have to now take this new video file that we just created, 2.mp4, along with the Blackbox gyro data, merge those two. We have to sync them, create a CSV file, and then we'll merge them with the gp.exe file. So let's go ahead and go into Blackbox Explorer. We'll go ahead and open up that those two files. So let's see, it's on the desktop in the Windows folder. So we're going to open up the 2.mp4 file along with the Blackbox data file. And here is where we're going to sync up the video so we can get the what I call offset value. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to launch that gp.exe program here. And okay, you're going to get this Windows protection run anyway. And you shouldn't get that on the subsequent launches. Okay, so if you get that error where the executable won't run, you may need to install the Python application or the Python programming language into your Windows computer. So go to python.org/downloads. And we're not going to install the latest version. I believe the latest version doesn't work. You're going to need something in the 3.8 series. So scroll down and let's see, December 21st, 3.87. Let's get 3.87. So let's download that. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and go click on the Windows installer 64-bit. Okay, let's go ahead and open up that file and run it. And then you want to make sure that you hit the box here that says add Python 3.8 to path and hit install now. Okay, hit close. Let's go back to the desktop here. Okay, so after you install the Python program, go to the directory here that has all the py little scripts here. These are all the Python scripts, and not the directory that has the executable. Don't go in here, but go in here instead. And then in the address bar here, type in cmd for command. That'll bring up a window. And then we need to install this library. It's called numpy. I'm going to copy this here and paste it in here. And that's going to install this library that's needed. Otherwise, the GP program won't run. And then we should be able to just double click on the gp.py program here. There we go. You want to leave this command window open. If you close this, then it'll close the main application. You can just minimize this and then have this off to the side. Anyway, so a bit sidetracked there. Now, I did want to show you this running so that I can show you that you have to load the video file. The Blackbox file, which will be the exported CSV file, I'll show you here in a second. But the important things we need to know are the start offset and the end offset, start time and end time of the video, and the profile that you're going to select. So I've tried a bunch of these, like here are 6 profiles that they don't seem to work very well or at all. And the ones that seem to work for me are the session 5 2.7K wide 4:3. This one here, and this resolution is incorrect in this profile drop down menu. It should be 2704 by 2028. But select this one. If you use 2032 and you upscale to that, the process will fail. It needs to be, as I mentioned earlier, as we showed you earlier in the video, it should be 2704 by 2028. But here we have to find these numbers. So you got to go back to Blackbox Explorer, and we have to sync up the gyro data from the Blackbox file that we imported with the video file. This is probably the hardest part to get right. And oftentimes you're going to get some very weird results if you are able to get ReelSteadyGO to process it, if the syncing is off by even just a little bit. So probably the easiest thing to do is go to the end of the video. Also, a couple pointers. You should have, if in this case you're using DJI, the DJI system, you should start the recording before you take off, and don't have it shut down the recording as soon as you land. That's the default setting. It should basically turn off auto temperature protect so that you can start the recording manually and stop the recording manually from your goggle. So that you have basically air unit video footage that is before the Blackbox file starts and after the Blackbox file ends. So basically before your arm and after your arm. And this is for the purposes of syncing the gyro data with the video file properly. So let's go to the end of the video here, and I'm going to try and find where I've landed. And you can see there's no gyro data here. There's nothing showing up here. So, and also another thing, there's a lot of things here. So I'm going to turn off some of these like yaw and let's see here. Well, you can turn these off if you want, but I'll leave it on for now. It'll be easier to see the gyro traces, and where you'll see basically where the landing happens is a big gyro, like bunch of there's a lot of noise in the gyro because it's landing, and that's what you're looking for to set the end point. So you can see here there's no gyro data here. It's not, so the video file is way out of sync. So there's gyro, and where is the gyro data? Okay, yeah, for some weird reason, I had to hit the graph setup button to bring in the gyro traces. Now they're in here. So go back to the end of the video, and we're going to look for where I'm landing. So you can see here, we have these massive changes in the gyro traces. This is where the landing point is. So we need to sync up this red line here with the video where it actually hits the ground. And so let's play the video. You can see that I say that the gyro has passed this point here in the video, so it's not in sync, as you can obviously tell. We need to bring that back. So you can hit this button here to move the log later. You can see it'll pull the log later in increments here, and then this little offset will change as you do that. So let's keep there's a landing point there. So you can see, let's slow it down. You can use the speed here to slow down the speed, and we'll jump back. Use this button here to jump back. And then we need to move the log further back some more. Right there. You can see right there where it hit the ground. This is where it should be. So I'm going to move this like that. And let's see how that plays out. So we'll go back here. So that's pretty close. I wouldn't use the audio to sync to the gyro, because the audio tends to be out of sync on DJI air unit footage. It might be in sync on other video files, but for some reason it's slightly out of sync. So you hear the noise. It doesn't match up with the video here, as you can see, obviously, in this particular file. But if you watch this very close, let's slow it down some more. Yeah, so it looks pretty close. So we'll just let me just play it one more time. Right there. I'm not 100% sure. Let's keep. So you want to keep trying this until you get it right. Yeah, that looks pretty close. Okay, so that looks pretty close. If it turns out that you're getting some strange results, you're going to probably want to just slightly modify this a little bit. Maybe move the log a little bit further forward or back, depending on your results. But this is the offset value for the end of the file here. It's going to be negative 3.867. So we'll go ahead and copy that value, and we're going to put that here in the end offset. And then for the start offset, it's probably going to be different, because it's not the data rate that it's being recorded in the black box is a little bit different from the way the video is recorded on the air unit. So go here to the beginning. All right, so let's keep going back. Okay, so you hear the sound there of the motors arming. So that usually means that the arming should be around here somewhere. And let's see if we can't see it. I don't see it anywhere here. So it's all the way at the beginning. So this is where according to the log file, this is where the arming occurs. But it's not there. It's like around there. So remember where this little blip is here. So this offset value for the beginning of the file is going to be different. So we're going to want to move this, move it back. All right. And we're going to move this point right here around here. It's actually the other way. It's like right around here. So you can see that the arming beep is here. Let's move this forward a little bit to like 50%. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, so we need to actually move this arming beep point more in this direction. So let's see. I think it's this way. Okay, so actually I'm going the wrong way. I need to go the other direction. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. So you can kind of see where this arming line is. That's where the where it starts to be armed, and then you can hear the motors. And then right here, that's where the gyro traces start. That's where the motors actually start up. So that's about right. So again, this is the hardest part of this whole process, is getting this right. Sometimes you might have to fiddle with these many times to get the exact sync points correct. So this will be your value for the start offset. So I'll copy that, go to the program here, and then we'll put this in. So you can see the numbers are different, plus 4.8 and plus 3.87. And then for the start time and end time, that's just going to be the length of the video file itself. Okay, so that's this one here. Let's go ahead and open that up. And so it's going to be 000 to 346. Let's see here. 0346. So we'll put in 000 and 0346. And then the camera angle is the actual camera angle that your camera is actually tilted on your specific quad. So in this one, this is an Eachine Stevatar. I have it set to, I think it's 15 degrees. It's approximately 15 degrees of a camera tilt. And then now we go ahead and load our video file. And that's here on the desktop. This is 2.mp4. And then we need that CSV file. So I haven't done that yet. So once we've done all the syncing, I'm going to go ahead and export our CSV file. And let's go ahead and let's just stick that in the same folder. And I'll just call this 2.csv. And then we can load our file here, and then there's the CSV file. And then we should be able to just go ahead and hit process video, and it should create an out file here in the same folder. So hit process video. It's going to create some of these other files here, 2 corrected FPS. There might be another, this orig fps.txt's in here as well. And then you see here that's correcting the frame. It's going to go through all these steps to inject the gyro data into the MP4 file. So at the very end, if everything works, you'll get this notation that says generated file 2_out.mp4. So it'll be the name _out.mp4, whatever your file name is, and I'll say success. That's what you're going to be looking for. If it gets stuck at this point over here, you don't see this last part, that means something is wrong with the format of the file. Either the frame rate's wrong, or it's missing the special GoPro data that it needs, at headers or whatever. Again, you probably want to use ffmpeg for your video scaling, but this is what you want to be looking for. And then that file will be, in any event, once you see that, the 2.out file will be here in the main folder with all the py files. It's right here, and it should have about the same file size as the original file here. So that's about 1.5 megabits or 1.5 megabytes. And this should be this should actually be about the same size. And if it is, then it should be ready to be processed by ReelSteadyGo. So you can just run ReelSteadyGo on it, and it ought to work. If you get an error like it says like wrong shooting mode, for example, that's a pretty common error. That usually means that the frame rate for the profile you're choosing is incorrect. So for example, if you choose the session 2.7K43 and your video file is 60 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second or 29.997 frames per second, then you're going to get that shooting mode error because it doesn't match what it's expecting. Anyway, this ought to work. I've found that if once you get a file and it's the proper size, it will work most of the time. If you get a 0 kilobyte file, that usually means that something has failed previously. You'll have to go back and start over and play with your settings to get a file that will be properly formatted for ReelSteadyGo. But that's pretty much it in terms of getting it going. Again, lots of pitfalls and landmines to avoid here because there's a lot of things that can go wrong, but at least they'll get you started. And if you have questions, head over to that Facebook group, and there's probably someone over there who's run into your problem and should be able to help you out. Okay, that's going to do it for this super long video. I'm out of here. Talk to you guys in the next one.